Okay, welcome to the latest Democracy 4 developer blog video. I am Cliff Harris. I am the designer and lead coder on the game, and I made the previous games. We've also got another coder and designer called Jeff. And this is, I think, video, what is it, video number 4, 3, 4, something like that. I don't know. So, yeah, politics simulation game, blah, blah. People miss me wearing hats for some reason, so I'm wearing a hat. I've got a load of hats. I should wear a different... This is my most normal looking hat. I have very stupid hats that I guess I could wear. So I'm going to talk about some stuff that's changed, stuff that we've put in and adjusted and so on. I'll talk about the visual stuff first, and then I'll just mention a few changes we've made. Got a missing icon there, which is just a naming issue, I think. So visually, I got the artwork for the achievements. Where's achievements? That's achievements. Achievements artwork is in. These should all expand and show you in larger versions with details about what's gone on and everything. But I haven't coded that yet, so they don't do that. But and they will be faded out until you do them. But I haven't done that either yet. But at least I've got my achievement artwork in there, which is cool. There's a load of artwork for events that is in the pipeline but isn't in yet. So user interface wise, I changed a thing. It wasn't on my list of things to do, but I thought, I had a sudden, wow, wouldn't it be better if we changed things? So here's an example of what I'm talking about. There's two screens in the game, one for situations and another one for what we call simulation values, but I think we might change to calling them metrics. But anyway, this is a situation, right? Which is street gangs, generally considered to be a bad situation because it means you've got gangs on the streets, which is not a good thing. You know, violent gangs, blah blah blah. So this is a situation, and what we used to have is just like a flat list here saying causes with these, and then a flat list saying effects. And you could scroll them. I'll show you it scrolling in a minute. And even though if you've played the game a lot and you're used to the main interface where you can do this and you can hover over it and you can see all these lines going in and out and stuff like that, even though we had that, and it should therefore kind of be obvious the impact that something is having, and obviously the words causes and effects make sense, just visually I think it's more helpful to show this stuff comes in here and this stuff comes out of there. So all of these things here, they cause this, street gangs, and this is how badly street gangs are kind of happening, and this is where the effects are. I think this is better. I think this is a better layout for it. I think it's more obvious. And it was funny because I'd made 3 versions of this game, and then when Jeff started working, he referred to a lot of the screens as infographics, and they kind of are. It's basically infographic simulator, really, the whole game. So I think we should embrace that a little bit more. So I think this is more of a kind of infographic way of displaying stuff. This was harder to code than you'd think. I mean, you know, it's just moving stuff around and everything. But screen resolutions can change a lot. This is 1920 by 1080 res, which is the most common res. But this all has to fit if you've got 1280 by 800 res, which is our minimum and is a really small laptop. So it has to work under those circumstances and with any number of these, and it has to scroll. So GDP, simulation value or metric, that also has this. So it has to scroll. Anyway, you know, that's I'm sure people go, oh, in Unity there's just a little thing you press and it does this. Anyway, whatever, it's a little bit of a pain to get right and to get it to line up perfectly and everything be crisp and all the rest of it. I think it still renders a little bit slowly, but we will fix all that. It's not too bad actually, is it? These are all the things that have affected this value. So this is GDP, doing quite well, sort of going up now. And these are all the things we've done, policies we've changed or laws we've passed or whatever that will have affected GDP. These are all the things that are currently affecting GDP. Now I could improve this screen quite a bit, I think. I'm always open to suggestions on this kind of stuff. part of me wants it to animate. Part of me wants like these arrows to kind of pulse and stuff, and these to be different thicknesses depending how strong these values are. But it's a fine line, right? Because from a design point of view, you have to think what is best, because coding wise and kind of for making cool trailers and stuff like that, you could have this ridiculously complicated animated throbbing pulsing GUI here, right? But you have to think, I think, how the player feels when they've been playing the game for like 20 hours, because we're trying to make games that people really get into and they spend a lot of time with. So the kind of stuff that animates, I mean, yeah, you can put it on a toggle and stuff like that, but you need to make sure you're actually helping and not just causing some like fluffy distraction, unless that is part of the vibe that you're going for. We did a game called Gratuitous Space Battles 2, which has the most over-the-top ridiculous user interface where things all animate and go, and that's the spirit of the game. The spirit of the game is you are in a sci-fi future with stupidly complicated user interfaces, which I find very amusing. But we're not doing that here. We're hopefully, this is a simulation and we're trying to make it really easy for you to kind of make decisions. So I don't want the user interface to get in the way, I want it to help you. Now this brings me on to veganism. I gave an interview recently with, is it Game Lab in Cologne? I can't remember. I'm rubbish at these things. Anyway, and I happened to mention, like, you know, it's going to be really difficult making this game because of identity politics and people are really angry these days about everything. So we have a value called veganism, and it includes vegetarians. And it includes flexitarians, okay? And it just does, just deal with it, okay? Because we're not going to have another value for the extent of vegetarianism and flexitarianism, and what about people that are pescatarian, and like, no, because you end up with a stupidly complicated game that nobody can actually play. So we call it veganism because that veganism is very trendy at the moment. But what we're basically saying is that people who are consuming less meat by one way or another, for whatever reason, and that has an effect on CO2 emissions, because a lot of CO2 emissions come from dairy farming and like beef farming and stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, loads of people will shout at us about this and go, you know, this is wrong, and also kind of like what causes people to go vegan. I mean, like, you know, this is a whole thing that people will be kind of like upset about. Does food price really affect whether or not people go vegetarian? And how does it? You know, everything's so complicated these days. If you're thinking these icons here are too close to this, I know it's on Jeff's to-do list. Naughty Jeff, fix that. Because this has no weight in the simulation. Because all this stuff can like be repositioned based on different values now, which is kind of cool. I love this. We really need to kind of like tweak it a lot, and there's bugs in there. I think influence is one of the best ways to look at things, because that shows you that GDP really matters. It's the economy, stupid, as I think Clinton used to say. So we've done some other stuff. Let me look at my list of little things that I changed. Yeah, God, we have business confidence. Where is it? That's it, business confidence. That affects GDP. So what is business confidence? It's kind of like the long-term investment decisions are based on business confidence. Business confidence is a real thing. So when you do something that really changes the economy, business confidence will dip. Which is in the UK, we recently had an election, and the opposition party was suggesting a lot of major changes to the way businesses were taxed and owned, and talking about taking some of them into public ownership and all this sort of stuff. And that would have, if they had won, they didn't win, but if they had won and put that into place, that would have had a big impact on business confidence. You might think it was worth it, I don't know. But basically, business confidence is how confident are you that the future will be something like the present, and therefore my current factory is profitable, so I will borrow money and I will build another factory and stuff like that. So we have a bunch of things, not enough things yet, that will affect business confidence. If you sack a minister, it will affect business confidence because it makes the government seem a bit... So you don't really know what's going to happen, and that is unpredictability about the future, which impacts business confidence and therefore GDP. This is relevant at the moment because there is, I retweeted it actually, there's a video doing the rounds of our current Prime Minister Boris Johnson in November, which is 3 months ago, giving a speech to the Confederation of British Industry, saying that he would absolutely keep the current Chancellor, and the current Chancellor's not going anywhere. And it's doing the rounds because the current Chancellor just resigned. But anyway, the reason he gives that speech is to say there is stability. Okay, and stability is very important. So we're going to have various events that happen in the game that will knock stability. They could be international events, or they could be policy decisions you make, stuff that happens, situations that crop up that will affect business confidence. That is a new thing. It's a new thing in the game. How exciting. There's a bunch of other stuff. Prison overcrowding is in, but it's a situation and it's not live yet. Prison regimes is in. A little icon. I need to change the icon because you can't really see it. It's like a heart and then a guy in a cell and then a fist, but nobody can see that. I really need to improve that. I can't think of a better way of reflecting it. So anyway, this is like on the one hand, it's kind of. I'm just going to say what I think. On the one hand, it's kind of like a touchy-feely approach to a prison regime that's very much focused on rehabilitation and finding out why prisoners behave the way they did and making them better people so that they can be released and reintegrated into society and they get TVs and Xboxes, basically. And on the other end, they're all shackled and or in bare cells for 23 hours a day and shouted at. And you may have an opinion on where that should be. And basically it's a liberal conservative thing. Liberals tend to believe in better treatment for prisoners, and conservatives tend to believe in harsher treatment for prisoners. And you can make a decision now, and it's basically a simple how much you're going to annoy each side. I need to do some research and see if I can justify saying that a harsher regime is worse for crime. You could argue it's better because it's more of a deterrent, but you could also argue that there's no rehabilitation there, so when people come out of prison they reoffend. Who knows? That's a difficult one. So we have that. We have a new policy of reforestation. If I go into policies, nothing's crashing this week, it's great. It's public services, I think, isn't it? I probably can't afford to do it right now. Or am I doing it? Am I already doing it? Is that why I can't find it? I reckon so. Oh my god, look at that, it spills out, that's awful. Reforestation, there it is, yeah, reforestation. Trendy thing, plant trees, soak up CO2, make environmentalists happy. I spent a lot of time looking up how much this costs, and it varies massively. So, yeah, this is how many trees you're going to plant and how much it's going to cost. And there will be endless arguments about that, as there will everything in the game. State broadcaster. We are in the UK, and we have a state broadcaster, although I haven't made it live yet. Public services. Where is it? State broadcaster, state broadcaster. There we are. The BBC. Anyway, that's in. Ironically, I thought, I will mention that as a policy, and it's live in the UK today. And one of the headlines in UK news today is that they're talking about privatising the BBC. So, watch this space. We may add it or remove it before the game launches. But that's the thing, state broadcaster. What are the effects of that? Is it good for tourism? Probably. Is it good for like foreign relations? Probably. Capitalists obviously hate it because it's partly it's entertainment, right? So the BBC doesn't just do news; it does drama series and it does nature documentaries, but it also does like chat shows and stuff. So isn't that like just muscling in on the private sector? Matter of opinion. Anyway, so that's going in. Workers on boards. This is a policy. Probably on the economy. Workers on boards. Workers on boards. Is this, yeah, workers on boards. Here we go. So this is this theory that you take someone from the shop floor and you put them on the board of directors and you get the input from the ordinary working person. Is that a good thing? You could argue that only people at the coalface, as it were, of the business understand how it's really working, and you need their input, and that will make the company more successful. You can also argue that their interest is primarily how does it affect me. They're not going to say, hey, maybe we should all work overtime for nothing. And maybe that's what the business needs at that point to stop it going bankrupt. It's a matter of opinion, but generally speaking, capitalists would be against that. Trade unionists would be massively in favour of that. Generally speaking, socialists would be in favour of that. But what is the impact? Very hard to say. I put it to you, my lad, that it reduces productivity, but increases wages and reduces the working week. And I'm not saying whether any of those things are good or bad. I need to stop saying this. It should be bloody obvious by now that I'm not trying to make a political point. I'm just trying to represent everything. What else have we got? Yeah, there's a thing that's been in the game forever, and no one sort of said, well, that's nonsense, Clef. Free eye tests, which is a policy. I don't know if we got it at the moment. Public services, free. Let me implement free eye tests. Look, nothing crashed. Right, and these are the effects. These effects make sort of sense. This was one of the first policies ever put into Democracy 3, and as a result, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I made it that it really annoyed the wealthy, because I was thinking the wealthy people will be upset at subsidising eye tests for the poor. And so it had some huge impact. It was like bigger than a luxury goods tax or something like that. And I never went back and fixed it. And it's still in the game now. Anyway, I've removed that because it's a stupid idea. Anyway, so I fixed that. I need to remind people that the game can look like this. We can play it in dark mode. I've got a hotkey for it just now, but it's here. And you will be able to edit palettes. Because I don't want people to just like see the odd screenshot of the game and go, oh, I don't like the color scheme. You know, we've got a spangly new user interface, and color scheme can be whatever you want. And I would love to see what color schemes people come up with, and it will be Steam Workshopable, so you will be able to edit all that. I think that sort of thing is really cool. I think that's it. Population. Oh my God, Christ! Stop telling me you want population in the game. I get it. Like, population is in the game. It's at the moment it's a simulation value and it affects a few things. It's affected by a few things. I'm beginning to sound like a normal YouTuber that's like hyper. Anyway, yeah, a lot more will go into this, but it's quite interesting, population, because a load of stuff can kind of reduce it that's kind of amusing to some extent. So like the right to die can actually reduce your population, because like a lot of old ill people will take that option, right? And there's a lot of policies that encourage new parents and stuff that will increase the birth rate and raise the population. Now, what I'm not doing is saying, oh, the population has gone up, therefore healthcare costs are necessarily going up, and tax income is going up, because they're going to be linear. I don't want a million inputs to population and a million outputs. It doesn't make any difference. So what I'm going for is where population is affected by things that are fixed as population grows. As population grows, tax income goes up and government expenditure goes up. We know that, okay? But as population goes up, other things will happen. For example, traffic congestion will go up because you don't have any more space to build more roads. Okay, you don't have more space. Arguably house prices would go up, although we don't model that. But that's the kind of thing that I want to model. I don't want... and we might model some like demographic stuff as well, and we do actually model lifespan. We've always modeled lifespan in Democracy 3, but it's a hidden object that you can't see, but it's always been in there. I've decided to make it a sort of visible thing. So as lifespan goes up, you're going to have more people who are retired, and so on. I had an event earlier. This is in the middle of a game. A deadly virus outbreak, so yeah, that's killing some people off. Year is an interesting one, because over time, just like technology and everything, automatically gives you a longer lifespan in the game. Anyway, I thought I didn't have much to talk about, but I've been very busy actually coding a load of things. And I've got loads of other stuff to do next week. What am I going to do next week? I'm going to allow you to sort this list of voter groups. I need to fix a few things, stuff to do with icons, blah blah. I'm wondering about whether leadership perceptions should affect political capital. If you wonder what leadership perceptions are, if you go here, you'll never have seen this if you haven't got the expansions of Democracy 3, but it's all part of Democracy 4. So people evaluate you as trustworthy, a strong leader, or compassionate, and you can see the impact this has if you look at a focus group. So the perceptions are actually positive at the moment. People seem to be very upset at the state of our ministers. I don't know what that's about. Anyway, I wonder if those perceptions should lead into political capital. So what we're kind of saying by that is, say for example, theoretically, like Donald Trump is really popular and perceived as a strong leader by the population, for example, right? In that case, could it be argued that he can get more done? If he's considered to be like compassionate, a strong leader, what was the other one? I can't remember. Compassionate, strong leader, and trustworthy. Say he's perceived as these things. Does this give him more ability to push through legislation? I would say it does, especially the strong leader thing. So I'm thinking of making those perceptions feed in here to political capital. But then how do I represent that? But, you know, I think that's fine, because you can click on this, you come down here to political capital, and we can add extra data here showing where that comes from. I don't know, I'm thinking about it. Loads of other stuff to be done next week. Anyway, this is Democracy 4, political strategy game, sequel, blah blah blah, being developed by me and Jeff and a bunch of other people. You know, coming soon, blah blah blah. I'm trying to do videos about every aspect of the game, and I love reading comments from people saying, I saw that icon suggesting this and that icon's rubbish, or that link that I saw on the screen in 4 minutes and 20 seconds sounds like nonsense. Feel free, feedback very welcome, because we're trying to make a game for the whole world, and we are two straight white English guys. Where Jeff's well, he's not Welsh. Anyway, whatever. Comments, leave comments. It kind of seems like I'm on drugs or something. I'm not. I've just had 2 cups of tea. That's it. It's pathetic, and a chocolate biscuit. Anyway, like and subscribe. Blah blah blah. See you next week.